Hi there, I'm Katie Forrestal, and I'm making this video today entitled "Why Art?" as an answer to a question that was posed to me by the people at the People's Artist Contest, which I am a contestant in. So they wanted to know why I was drawn to art and why I keep going back to it. And I thought about this all day long, and I wanted to be as short-winded as possible, but the comment section just didn't give you much room at all, so I thought maybe I can make a video and put it in the comment section, so we'll see what happens. But I figured this was good, a message for someone who might be out there struggling and trying to do something with their art anyways. So here's my story. At 13, I got interested in interior design and in music. Interior design probably came because I had moved so many times with my family and never could seem to stay in one home. And I was 13 and finally got my own bedroom and was starting to decorate. And my best friend's mother happened to be an interior designer. And then music, I had this awesome teacher in 7th grade who was teaching us about Stairway to Heaven. And that was really cool and grabbed my interest. And he tried to get me to join choir, but I was having a hard time with my shyness and didn't want to audition. But it didn't really matter because shortly after that, the first trauma of my life, major trauma, happened, and that was that my family was split up and we were put in foster homes. So I had to move on from there and deal with living with a strange family, and I wasn't very happy. I drowned myself in music. Neil Young, Heart of Gold album was probably my favorite. I loved Cat Stevens back then too, but anyways, I would just drown myself in music, one album after another, and I guess I was in a little bit of a depression. But then eventually I met the love of my life, well, my first love, and that kind of got me in a new direction in the relationship arena. So I was madly in love with him, and he wasn't really that good at committing, so we had an up and down relationship, but he was definitely a big impact on my life. And sadly, he died in a car accident, and I was only 20, and it shook me to the core, and it got me to move out of my small town to try to get away from the memories and also my broken family that was still there, and start a life of my own. So I moved away, and the first thing I did was took an interior design course, a home study course, trying to pick up where I left off when I was 13, I guess. And it was really good for me, and I was starting to think about what I can do with my life. And then I met my first husband, and we dated for 5 years while I was in college getting my BA in interior design. And the whole time that I was doing that, he was trying to get me to change my major. He was a businessman and I was an artist. He was practical and I was a dreamer. Caused a lot of strife in our relationship, but we still got married 5 years later. I was trying to get a interior design business off the ground, and his philosophy was that interior design was a hobby for rich housewives. And that really made it hard to go forward, and the pressure eventually got to me, and I did give up my interior design business to do it as a hobby, as he suggested. And I designed 2 of our homes, and I made gifts for our families and friends, and I kept myself busy in the arts, but there was always tension. And when the kids got older, he wondered, what am I going to do to make money? And eventually we ended up divorced after 17 years, and at 45, I found myself in a new place. I had started singing a couple years before we got divorced, and I went to a vocal coach and fell in love with the vocal coach and got remarried to a musician. So I thought, I'm in the arts now, everything's going to be great, I'm free to be me. Well, that was true as long as I was paying the bills, and he didn't have to really work very hard, and it became another type of burden financially that I really struggled with, and that was hard. But then when the abuse came, when he started drinking, because he wasn't drinking when I first met him, it was just too much. So after 13 years of escalated abuse, I had to leave that relationship. So here I am now at 55. I'm up on a mountain on this small piece of land that I was able to acquire, and I'm living kind of off the grid, trying to get myself established out there in nature with my dogs and kind of enjoying it. But I was a little bit like a pioneer woman, trying to build an art studio from scratch, building a foundation, digging it out, and then trying to build out a cob, but the moisture in North Carolina didn't work too good for that. So anyway, I got a small shed and I turned that into a cabin. Well, I was starting to turn it into a small cabin, and I had my RV up there, and everything was fine until trauma number 4 hit, and that was my son having a mental health crisis, which led me to go back to Florida to be with him because he needed me through that. And he also had some legal issues, so I had to be there for him, and I eventually ended up having to sell my land, which was a heartbreaker, but whatever it takes. When someone needs you, that's that close to you, don't, be a person that says they made their bed, lie in it, be there for them, because thank God I was, and got him through it. It was tough, but we got through it. Anyways, he ended up back up here with me in North Carolina with no land. We got another RV, and we found a place to rent, and it has a creek and nature, and our 3 dogs are here. and it's not easy. It's a small space, but even in this rough patch we've been through, I felt the still small voice in me say, create art. Well, how am I going to do that? I don't have any room for a studio. I don't really have room for anything. So somehow I came up with this idea of making these little boxes, and I just started building an inventory. And here I am now at 64. Last year I wrote a song, 63, and I live in an RV. Now it's 64 and I'm made for more. So I'm really hoping to get out of this situation someday, but I'm doing my first art show in a long time. And I joined this contest, and thank you, Johnny Depp, for being an inspiration. Ever since the trial, I connected with your pain and suffering through the abuse, and then I also connected with your healing through the arts, and that's how I ended up here. So that's what this is about, and I hope somebody listens, and have a great day. And remember, art is an anchor of hope, always.